Hello, my dear students. So, I hope you all are doing well. So, today we have to study the next chapter, chapter number 6, that is market mechanism. Okay, so here we have to understand the concept of market mechanism. Now, before entering into this topic of market mechanism, we know that we have already discussed the concept of demand and supply. We have already done this concept of demand and supply. Okay, demand and supply. Now, this demand curve, let's consider demand curve, supply curve. So why this concept of this demand and supply, or demand curve and supply curve, is important before entering into this concept of market mechanism? So this is important. See, this demand curve tells us, or this demand curve explain the quantity, okay, different quantity. This tell us the different quantity demanded by the consumers at different prices. Okay, so this demand curve gives us the idea about the different quantity demanded by consumers at different prices. Similarly, this supply, okay, supply curve also tells us the different quantity different quantities supplied by the producers at different prices. So we have seen that in demand refers to the quantity of commodity that consumers are willing to purchase at different prices. Okay, so that is your demand. And next one, we have supply. So supply refers to the different quantity of commodity that producers are willing to offer for a sale at a different prices. So here the concept of demand and supply is important, because in order to determine the price, okay, the price is determined with the help of these market forces of demand and supply. Now, why this chapter is important? Because this only demand, concept of demand and supply, yes, they will say that the quantity will different quantity demanded at different prices, supply, okay, the different quantity being supplied at the different prices, but it will not tell us the actual price, that what price will be or what price should be. So that, okay, the determination of price, is important, and that determination of price is the main subject matter. Okay, determination of price is the main subject matter of this chapter, market mechanism. Now, how that price is determined? So price is determined with the market forces of demand and supply. Okay, we can determine the price of a commodity with the help of demand and supply. We know that demand curve is downward sloping and supply curve is upward sloping. So this intersection point, okay, the intersection point of this demand and supply will gives us the equilibrium price. Now, before moving to this market mechanism, there are a few basic concepts, and we need to understand the basic concept. First one, we have equilibrium. Okay, next one, we have equilibrium price. Next one, we have equilibrium quantity. We have disequilibrium. So we will discuss one by one this concept. So first, we'll move to the equilibrium. So what is equilibrium? Equilibrium, in general sense, in general term, what we say that equilibrium is the state, okay, state of balance. State of balance means when the two forces are balanced. Suppose say this is a pen, okay, and when I am keeping this pen in this position, means the pen will not fall down until and unless both opposite forces are balanced together, or when suppose say one side the weight of pen is increasing slowly, then what will happen? There will be the chances of falling the pen. That means when both the forces are balanced, then that situation is called equilibrium. Now in economics, what is this equilibrium mean? Equilibrium means when the two opposite forces of demand and supply, okay, when two opposite forces of demand and supply are equal. That means when quantity demanded, we can say that the equilibrium refers to the situation in which quantity demanded of a commodity is equals to the quantity supply. Okay, when quantity demanded and quantity supply are equal, we can say that the situation is in equilibrium, or that situation is called equilibrium. That means when quantity demand and quantity supply are same. That means in market, suppose a quantity demand is 45 units, 45 units of commodity X, and quantity supply is also 45 units, and quantity demand is also 45 units. So see, quantity demand, okay, quantity demand, this quantity demand is also suppose say 50 units, 50 units, and this quantity supply is also 50 units. Now you can see that quantity demand and quantity supply both are same, that is 50 units, 50 units. So in that situation we can consider as equilibrium. Okay, now next one, equilibrium price. So what is that equilibrium price? Okay, equilibrium price. So what is that equilibrium price? Equilibrium price refers to that price at which, okay, it refers to that price at which quantity demand, QD is our quantity demand and QS is quantity supply. QD is our quantity demand, QS is our quantity supply. So the price at which quantity demand and quantity supply are same is called equilibrium price. Okay, so the price at which quantity demand and quantity supply are same. Suppose in market at different prices, different quantity of commodity is demanded, at the same time different quantity of commodity being supplied. So suppose say QS, quantity supply of commodity X, quantity supply of commodity X is 50 units at price equals to rupees, suppose say 10, and the quantity demand of commodity X is also 50 units at price rupees 10. That means at price rupees 10, quantity demand and quantity supply are same. So the definition says that the price at which quantity demand and quantity supply are same is known as equilibrium price. Okay, so next concept we have disequilibrium. So here you have to understand what is disequilibrium. Disequilibrium is a situation where quantity demand and quantity supply are not same. When quantity demand is not equals to quantity supply, then that situation is called what? Disequilibrium. That means either in this situation, either the quantity demand will be greater, sometimes quantity demand may be greater than quantity supply, or sometimes quantity demand will be less than quantity supply. That means sometimes quantity demand will be greater than quantity supply, or sometimes quantity supply will be greater than quantity demand. So because of these two situations, what will arise? A disequilibrium will arise, and disequilibrium is a situation where quantity demand and quantity supply are not same. Now next concept we have in our book, supply side and demand side and supply side. Okay, next concept we have demand side and supply side. So what is this demand side, and who generate that demand? So demand side, okay, demand side means generally the demand are generated from demand. So demand are generated by consumers. So why do the consumer demand goods? Consumer demand various type of goods and services to satisfy his wants or to maximize the utility, because whenever they consume different goods and services, that all poses some level of satisfaction. So when they consume, when they use that commodity, they will get some satisfaction. So generally this demand, no, demand is arises from the consumers. That means consumer are generating the demand. Similarly in this supply side, so the supply side means the supply is generated from the producer side. Who is the one to supply the various goods and services in the market? Supplier. Producers, sellers are the one who produce and bring the commodity in a market and offer for a sale at the different prices. So this supply side arises from the producers or seller. Now, why do they produce and supply more in the market? Because their intention is to earn profit. Their motive is to earn profit. So, with that profit maximization intention, they produce various goods and services and supply in the market. Okay, so now we have already understood the concept of this demand side and supply sides. Demand side arises from the consumers, the supply side arises from the producers. So why the consumers are demanding various goods and services? Consumer demand various goods and services to satisfy his wants or satisfy his needs or to maximize his utility. Similarly, why do producers produce? Producers produce various goods and services to maximize their profit. So these are the basic concept that today we have learned: equilibrium price, disequilibrium, demand side, supply side. So this much for today, and the remaining portion we will cover in the next class.